and a very warm welcome to Accenture presents ETStudios Digital Campus in association with ETCIO. I'm your host Divina Lasson. Now we at ET are thrilled to bring you this series where we give you a 360-degree perspective on all the innovations that are required to build a future digital society. Today we're here to talk about shaping up the tech roadmap. We're going to deep dive into all the trends that are going to play a big role for organizations to build a robust digital engine. This and much more. So without further ado, I'd like to warmly welcome our guest today. We have joining us Nitin Mishra, CTO, OND C. Welcome, Nitin.
Hello. Thank you.
Thank you. And Deepak Bakshi, MD, Accenture India.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you here. We're here to talk about the latest trends, right, that are shaping up the digital story for organizations across sectors. Deepak, maybe we can start with you. There's been some very interesting and insightful reports released by Accenture recently talking about many, many trends that are impacting organizations. A big one being the Metaverse continuum. So if you could help us just understand a little bit about how the Metaverse continuum is going to be a future for building a bridge between the physical world, the digital world, and everything in between. A little bit of a background.
Sure, absolutely. I think we talked about multiple technology trends in this report, but as I see it across our clients in India, the digital and the physical worlds are kind of converging, right? We are on that journey where we started, of course, physical, then digital caught up, and now we are in a phase where it's increasingly getting intermingled with each other. Consumers, customers, users, employees, the way you look at across categories, industries, they are hopping on, hopping off different touch points across digital and physical world, right? Now, Metaverse provides one technology which allows a number of industries and organizations to enable such kind of a phygital presence for users, employees, and consumers. Likewise, there are multiple other technologies. Sometimes we use the word omni-channel as customers and users hop, for example, e-commerce between physical shopping, online shopping. And when you go to the industrial side of the world, then technologies like digital twin, where you can actually visualize complex settings, machines operating, and control it from the comfort of quote unquote a control room rather than being physically in harsh conditions. I think all those are realities that we live in.
Yes.
And it's very, very important for businesses and industries as I see it. So I think in the times to come, we'll have more of this because the whole value that a business generates is going to be not located only physical or digital. It has to be phygital in some shape or form. That's what I believe.
Absolutely. I just want to add to what Deepak was saying. If you look at the e-commerce, right, what has happened is over time, if you look at the evolution of e-commerce, there was traditional store-based shopping. From there, it completely moved online, right? So in the comfort of your home, you're actually sort of buying items, something that either you have experienced earlier or you probably have heard about, how it can be utilized. But now I think, the direction to which the consumer is actually going is they want to have an experience before they can actually buy. And this is exactly where the lines between a physical and a digital world is actually blurring, right? And we are seeing more and more of it, merging and intermingling with each other. I was talking to, somebody a couple of weeks ago, and gentleman is actually running a phygital store, right? Which doesn't have any physical products. You simply walk into the store and you experience the product in its, in its real environment. And the moment you like something, just scan a QR code and you've bought it. You just provide your details. It is shipped either directly to your home or you can actually pick up something on your way out. So your requirement of having large real estate has actually gone away. And this is where the digital real estate can actually sort of, collect a lot of elements in a very small space. So I completely agree. I mean, I think this is going to revolutionize the way people do commerce.
Yeah. Truly the future of shopping.
Absolutely.
I'll add one more example, Nathan, that reminds me, Accenture kind of living this on us, right? So post-COVID, or rather I would say pre-COVID, we used to have, of course, our global awards, which are the best in innovation, technology, and the client value that we create, etc. And the winners only were kind of flying to an award ceremony and being taken to showcase what they are talking about, etc. COVID disrupted everything in the world, and what we evolved to is a metaverse ceremony, if you will,
Wow.
that allows the entire organization to participate simultaneously. There are no constraints, no boundaries, no need to necessarily get off your work to be really listening to or participating in an event like this. And the last couple of years we've been having in Metaverse, and it's awesome. It's brilliant experience.
And you still are? This continues to be the way you
Absolutely,
function?
it continues to be. It's
Fantastic.
people love it. It's a different experience, but then you can be in the two worlds at the same time.
Yeah.
You could still be sipping a physical coffee at your desk and be in a Metaverse award ceremony listening to some new innovations.
Truly a
And
digital
our
experience.
Absolutely.
You know, there are some other trends as well that are mentioned in the Accenture Tech Vision report. We're talking about right now about Metaverse, but there are also trends like WebMe, programmable world, the Unreal, computing the impossible. I think these are the 4 main trends that are cited in the report. So, Deepak, again, if you can set a little context around these, and how do you see these trends truly translating into the way organizations are going to function in the coming years?
See, essentially, let's continue the thread around phygital, right? As the digital physical worlds merge, become more omni, become more phygital, you need to have individual traversing, which means the identification becomes very important. How would you know, for example, Nitin is the one who came into my store but had browsed me online for that matter. And hence an individual's identity or digital identity becomes mainstream and needs to be kind of looked at. Of course, there are elements then related to that which are of privacy, right? How much data I want to share, how is it going to be utilized, am I getting invaded, etc., etc. are the concerns that technology is addressing and businesses are as well. But once your identity is established, and you are traversing this journey as a consumer, as a customer, user, employee, whichever profile one is, you're leaving behind your footprints. There is a lot of data that is getting generated, right? And which means that your profile itself is getting enriched, but the organizations can give you much more personalized, as we call it, hyper-personalized experiences, and you would demand that as well, right? Which means, taking a step further, you need that kind of computing power to utilize that data and make it real time, right? So that takes us to the aspects of quantum computing that will kind of become real, and organizations need to start using it. So that's how I see the value chain of these concepts. One can look at it from a technology trends perspective, but this is real. What's happening to us? Nathan, you think so?
Well, absolutely, but and I actually want to give a lateral view to what you said. While data is also an opportunity, right? There is huge amount of data, personalized data, what you are browsing, what sites are you visiting, and every search engines or in fact for that matter even e-commerce players are also churning a lot of this data. And with this whole compute power which is becoming a reality, that whole concept of mass customization is now coming to the fore, right? Today, you can go to a website and then sort of say that you want a car which must have this kind of a color, their seat have to be this color, their upholstery has to be this color. Such things are becoming possible where you can build your own customized car. But at the same time, data privacy also becomes a very important element, because fundamentally with all of this data footprint that is getting left out there and being churned and you're being profiled, it has a negative side also. And I think these technologies, while the push will come towards innovation, a lot of technologies will now be required to make sure, the whole privacy aspect of the data is taken care of, right? For example, consent-based data aggregation. And this is what, if you see, even the government has actually focused on, right? There are a lot of initiatives that have been, for the last few months, you would have seen it. There are advertisements which the government is releasing. They're also ensuring the DID is actually the Indian digital privacy law is also under the works, where the whole, which is very close to how GDPR has been developed. So I think while this innovation and this sort of an evolution of technology will continue to happen and happen at breakneck speed, I think the other side must also catch up the pace and make sure that such risks are also sort of protected. The data, personal data, is not compromised in any form, shape, or state.
Absolutely. In fact, they say that data has the power to be sort of the digital decision maker for organizations in terms of efficiency, relationship with customers. How do you see this really panning out in the coming years?
So I'll talk about OND C, right? What OND C has done. In order to democratize the digital commerce, we have unbundled the functions, right? When we say unbundle the function, the buyer function, you can be on any buyer app. You can be on, your banking app for that matter. And your seller could actually be powered by a third party, this thing. So the whole platform construct has been unbundled into very smaller platforms which can interact with each other, right? Now with this, what is happening is, these two parties need to trust each other, and the values have to get exchanged, right? The whole data paradigm around, so if you look at the way the decisions are being made on ONDC, so a buyer app raises an intent to buy something, right? Which now the seller and the buyer are basically on two distinct platforms. The information about seller is not available to the buyer, and the buyer is only sending a very little amount of data to the seller, because that is the principle. Now, using this data, the seller app has to decide what exactly is the buyer app looking for, and then offer the products which are basically of interest to the buyer, right? So you can simply write a keyword, right, and that keyword has to get translated into the most optimum product that actually fits that, right? So that is the whole machine aspect. So in ONDC construct, most of the decision is being taken by the machine. And so what buyer is actually raising an intent of his interest, or consumer is actually raising an interest of consumption, and the seller app is fundamentally, or the provider app fundamentally is assessing the request and converting it into what can be consumed on the other side. So things are changing. I mean, you see the machines are making decisions on your behalf. Unlike earlier, where you have to go to a shop, do a test drive, and then sort of decide what you want to buy. I think it's a continuous evolution.
So I'll just add to what Nitin mentioned as well. While he talked about a lot of consumer data and how that can be channelized for business value, I think organizations in today's world cannot sustain without using data. And this is across the entire enterprise, right? So you can look at supply chain, you can look at machine data, you can look at sales, marketing, even employees for that matter. Customers is one very important, strong element. But then across the organization, gone are the days when it used to be boardroom conversations of, I think we should do this, right? It's no longer, right? It is, okay, so what does the data tell us? Where are we having a challenge, right? If with the post-COVID, during COVID, there were a lot of supply chain disruptions across industries, right? And you take logistics partners, you take organizations who have heavy dependency on supply chain, they were all kind of tracking where my raw material is, finished goods are, and so on, and what needs to be done at that point, right? And without that kind of an insight, it's very difficult. Yes. So data insights to run business is absolutely a must.
It's a must.
And in real time, I mean,
in real time,
make no mistake, you don't have that flexibility of having loads amount of data and process and then generate insights. You have streams of data coming in, and you need to build systems which can actually process this stream and give you real-time insights. Right? IoT is basically making it possible.
Yeah, and that's where it links to the quantum computing part we were talking about earlier. You need more computational power. It's not humans to kind of do that real time. Let the machines throw in. Humans are there to kind of make sure we are taking the right insights and the judgment call in terms of what needs to be done as an action.
So many factors to keep in mind, actually. So, Deepak, in your experience, how are you seeing organizations place their priority when it comes to tech investments? Of course, we're talking heavily about the role of data, security, efficiency. Other than that, how are you seeing organizations place their investment roadmap when it comes to tech innovations?
So as I speak to a number of my clients or within Accenture's world, within India, I think various organizations of course have their business priorities. Of course, let's say everybody is looking to grow, and to grow they'll need different kinds of tech investment. Without fail, almost everyone is investing in data tech to be at a minimum, right? That's important, and that takes care of your organization-wide data. but then you need the right set of technologies to take care of enterprise, right? So whether it's your new or next gen ERP technologies that are getting implemented across the board that can consume this data and also kind of churn out the results, make it a digital boardroom, if you will, is another set. And then I would say the front-end technology is also taking more prominence in such decisions from CIO, CTO, CDO standpoint, right? And this includes whether you are creating a customer 360 on the back of data tech, whether it is investing in MarTech to make sure that you're able to leverage that data, or the commerce technologies of different shapes and forms. Right? Those are the core. The organizations or industries which are, I would say, predominantly in manufacturing, supply chain, operations side, they will of course have priorities to make sure their processes are more modernized, if you will, to arrive at that. But it's surely a lot of investment going on, and I think there is fair degree of appreciation of new tech in this, and well, not to mention AI, but that's a different topic of conversation.
Maybe the next one. Nitin, same question from OND C standpoint. What are some of the sort of tech mega trends that are you're very bullish on, and taking that into consideration when you're creating your investment roadmap?
I think gone are the days when you used to sit down and say, when you used to do budgeting exercise, these are servers that I'll buy, or there's a software that I'll buy. Now people are talking about, when we sit down, we write down a solution roadmap. Yes. And then in this solution roadmap, what should be the key investments? I think while OND C per se will not have too many digital assets, we are an organization which are in the business of defining standards, defining protocols, and make sure then in some sense, create a democratic, discoverable ecosystem for our for the stakeholders for that matter. I think where I see major investment, at least in the e-commerce space that is going, is around creating edge acceleration. He talked about how do you bring the compute power to the end mile, right? So edge acceleration, and especially now you're seeing e-commerce is penetrating into tier 3 and rural areas, and OND C is making it possible if you look at the trends that we have had over the last 3 to 6 months. We see a lot of investment going into this edge acceleration, whether it is in form of compute power, network power, internet power, the main power itself. I think a lot of investment will go into enabling these ecosystem players. The second trend that I see happening now is even cloud is becoming a passe now, right? Now people want that trust to be available. There needs to be sufficient fault tolerance available in their businesses. So I think now there is a concept of multi-cloud, data center strategy, where people are looking at mitigating the risk that the cloud offers, and yet be able to use the power of the cloud to utilize. So a lot of orchestration players we will see now sort of coming up, which will allow you to operate your systems in a cloud agnostic way. You don't care whether you're on Google, you're on AWS, you're on Microsoft Azure. There is an orchestration layer that will sit on top, which will ensure that your workloads are getting equally distributed across multiple data centers. So I think a lot of this abstraction is happening. But one thing that I'll definitely say, for any technology to take legs across the globe, I think the cost of acquisition and cost of operation of technology should come down, right? It must get commoditized. And look at, AI is not something that we are talking now. AI has been, at least for the last 4 to 5 years, it has been a hot topic. Everybody was talking. But look at what ChatGPT did, right? The moment it came in, now everybody, even a small kid, has started talking about ChatGPT. It has made the interfaces so simple. And the cost of doing that analytics has also become very simple because the system has learned over time. So I think that is the second point that I'll make. While technology will keep evolving, I think looking at technology and looking at the end user and making it more commoditized will actually sort of where people will look at, and the organizations will tend to invest in those areas which create these mass scale technology platforms.
I think a very important point, Nitin, that you mentioned, right? See, there used to be an era where the technology decisions were around I am looking to have an ERP, for example, and let's identify which is the best product and what will it take to do that, etc., etc. I think now we are in a phase where organizations are looking at the business outcomes, right? I need to double myself in 3 years. What do I need to do to achieve that, right? And as a corollary of that, if a product fits in that roadmap to achieve that vision, so be it, right? And hence it's no longer a question of what can Chat GPT do for me. It's like I want to provide a better customer experience. Is Chat GPT one solution? Are there other solutions which I can use, right? So that's how technology is getting more business oriented rather than just being a tech play.
Interesting. So exactly, customer experience is really at the heart of strategy, right? In this experience economy, as they call it, that we're living in. So how are there any specific examples and insights you can share on how customer experience, user experience is directly impacting the strategies of organizations?
I'll just keep it simple, and I'll use the term simplicity in that in experience, right? I think the whole premise is as technology gets complex, the idea is not to let that technology be faced with the consumer. As in, the consumer should not know the complexity of that, right? The consumer should know this can really solve my problem, right? Or the user, the customer, as we're talking about. And that's where, that is the experience, right? It may not be limited to how you design the UX or UI of it. It may be in how you actually take the customer on that journey. But it's very important. The complexity doesn't matter. As Nitin, you were talking earlier, right? What OND C has done is kind of decoupled, unbundled the entire e-commerce players and functions, right? And you have a buyer and a seller and a logistics side and so on. It may be more complex than what a platform play is, but to a customer or a consumer, it's much more simplified, right? I'm getting whatever product I can from whichever seller that's available, and I don't need to be thinking about how the protocols are playing in, right? And I think that's the essence. So the more technology evolves, experience will take a greater shape because you have to simplify the experience. As long as we are focused on simplifying the experience, I think the adoption will be much higher, as I see it.
I completely agree. You know, the technology is an abstraction, right? An example I gave was ChatGPT. AI was becoming so complex with so many of mathematical models. There is random forest, you logistics regression. There are hundreds of different models that were available, and people were getting confused. Yeah. And it's becoming very complex. But what ChatGPT did was it created a very simple interface so that anybody can, and they brought AI to the common man. And I completely agree. I think as long as the technology stays behind the complexities of technology, and make no mistake, it's very complex to run a technology system, right? You know, but then the interfaces have to be very simple, right? It has to be thematic. As C.K. Prahlad, I remember, once said that, you know, now the organizations are moving towards an era where you utilize all your global resources to service that one client, right? And that is the direction in which the whole consumer experience space is moving. How do you create this mass customization at this scale, right? You have, I mean, the penetration is about 3.5% of e-commerce. We are seeing it to go to about 20% in the next 2 to 3 years. You know, the amount of consumers that will come on online is going to be significant. How are you going to create customized experience? You'll use this complex technology mesh behind a very simple to use screen. So I completely agree, you know, with you, Deepak, on that.
In fact, referring back to the technology trends that we started the conversation with, we surveyed a lot of CXOs in India, and one of the findings that has come out very prominently is more than 80% of them believe that the experience needs to be wow, right? And unless that's the case, the adoption, the scale of that technology, any new technology for that matter, will not take shape, right? So it has to be.
I think the concept itself is changing. I mean, we used to hear the word customer satisfaction or CSAT index. Now I think people are talking about customer delight, and the whole paradigm is changing towards the customer delight index now. And I think, I'm sure somebody is catching up on this, will actually start building models around it.
Just to bring in one example, I was talking to, so of course, as part of customer experience, we do have a number of client conversations. A few years ago, the conversations on customer experience were more focused on the front end. How is the UX UI? Can I make it simple? Can I make it more engaging? Can I have the customer get to what he or she is looking for in as lesser steps or as easy as it was, right? That was the trend, right? Now you talk about customer experience, there is no bar, right? Supply chain is also customer experience, right? In e-com, whether your product is getting delivered on time and the customer is aware of that, and if he or she has to return, exchange, refund, that is part of customer experience. It's no longer limited to UX UI. And hence the technology backbone of it, on how you solve that challenge, how the reverse pickup needs to happen, when the refund needs to get issued, etc. Customer says it's not my problem. It is not. It's experience, right?
Interfaces are changing, right? I mean, earlier you used to see that there is a mobile app or there is a web browser. We are seeing, and within our OND C ecosystem, we are seeing people creating WhatsApp-based, buying interfaces. Right? So, for example, you just click a picture and you upload it to a WhatsApp, the engine will automatically identify what you're looking for, and will also give you an upsell and a cross-sell and other products. And the whole, including the payment, delivery status, everything is happening on that interface. Where people are talking about user experiences and UI, I mean, people are writing HTMLs and CSS and XSS of the CSS of the all HTML world. It has completely gone away. WhatsApp has actually, completely, taken it away. The whole negotiation piece is happening on chats now.
Yeah. So the tech is a medium, right? Yeah. So you can use any medium to essentially reach the consumers, or where you find that experience can actually be delivered, and let the tech be behind. It is required, absolutely. You can't do without it. But to the end consumer, let it be very simple, but it's very, very important aspect of the puzzle.
Simplicity is key. Gentlemen, we've spoken about so many amazing trends and so many things to look forward to. As we slowly come to a close, if you could summarize a key takeaway for all our viewers, maybe the top 3 trends to look out for in 23-24.
Okay, I'll say that technology is evolving, including AI. Let's kind of take it in technology. The whole aspect is keep it simple. Focus on customer experience, focus on business outcomes, depending upon the organization. Of course, these KPIs differ, but focus on customer experience and business outcome. Technology is going to be a driver, and there is the evolution happening in technology which will enable those outcomes and those experiences for you. You have to just stay focused on that. That's what I'll say.
I agree. The only thing that I'll say is, I think the expectation with the whole evolution of technology, the way it has evolved over the last 2 to 3 years, and especially after COVID, where it necessitated the need of an innovation for people to interact remotely rather than in more physical terms. I think directionally what is going to happen is the interaction between human and machines are going to become more and more prominent, right? Where it is going to be more conversational technology rather than structured technology, right? The world do not live in structures anymore, right? You do not have a fixed catalog and you are actually clicking on one item and you're buying it. I would want to have a casual conversation with a chatbot sitting on the other side. Today I want to have an ice cream, right? And then the conversation ensues, and then finally you decide. I think somewhere this interaction, while abstracting the complexities of technology behind the interfaces, I think that is the direction that I would see, at least for the next couple of years, the industry will move in. They will move in to make sure the end consumers, which can be a business entity as well, are able to interact with their machines more and more conveniently in a faster, efficient, and a trust-based manner. In the sense that nobody is actually losing any trust here, that my data is getting tracked. I don't know who all will actually call me and all that. So I think that is the direction, and that is the trend that I see. It is in the next couple of years are going to become very, very hot.
Of course, the boundaries are blurring, and it's going to be a phygital world.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how we should look at it.
Let's go phygital.
Very much like what this is.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. Gentlemen, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing all your insights and really, in the end, pulling our entire conversation together and giving us these key takeaways to look forward to in the coming years. Thank you.
Absolutely
Thank you so
pleasure.
much.
Thank you, Devina.
Thank you.
All right, well, with that is a wrap on Accenture Presents ETStudios Digital Compass in association with ETCIO. But do stay tuned to ETStudios for many more such in-depth and exciting conversations. We have a lot more coming up. Until next time, many thanks for watching.